Hey guys, how are you all doing? I hope you're all doing great. So guys, this new story is really amazing and it was recently released with 20 chapters already available. So let's see together what the story is actually like, how our MC transforms from a weak vampire into a vampire lord, and what kind of difficulties he faces in his journey to becoming a vampire lord. So guys, if you like the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and share it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and also let me know in the comments what you thought of the video. And don't forget to hype up the video because the more reach the video gets, the sooner the next video will come out. The story begins in a forest where we see several soldiers standing in the rain with their weapons. And as lightning strikes, we see a knight hunting a vampire who says to him, "Did you really have a lot of fun hiding for these 6 months? But during this time you've killed many people. Didn't I say that right, you worthless bastard?" And saying this, he laughs and continues, "This was a pretty good trick to mark us holy knights here." But the vampire was confused. He then says, "But your role is now complete. Now by God's will you are no longer needed here, and now because of you I will be able to receive the title of Vampire Slayer. And here. You committed a sin by going against the church, therefore. You must accept the punishment given by the holy knight, and your appearance proved your sins." After that, the knight laughs and says to the vampire, "Do you know that we deliberately didn't catch you for such a long time?" Hearing this, he was confused and the knight continues, "And the reason was that I joined the pursuit squad quite late, that's why. You were allowed to do whatever you wanted, and because you are a vampire who has appeared here after a very long time, we had to act slowly to catch you so that we could attract even more attention." Seeing this, the vampire gets very angry and extending his claws attacks the holy knight saying, "I know very well that only the powerful can survive in this world. Everything is decided here only by the strength of the powerful. It doesn't matter what I think here, and that's why I've been running away until now." And in the midst of all this, the holy knight attacks that vampire, cutting him in two and finishing him off. With that, everything ends here, and the holy knight, seeing this, smiles and says, "Your existence brings shame and defiance to the image of the church." And the vampire, dying, says, "If I had been given another chance I wouldn't have hesitated at all," and with those words his breath leaves him and he dies. Then the scene shifts and the next moment he wakes up from his sleep screaming. He screams and looks around, realizing he was inside his cave. He doesn't see anyone there, which makes him take deep breaths, but he was still quite confused. He says, "What happened here? I remember my throat was cut in two, but it's still attached. It's certain that I died there, but was it a dream?" And then looking around he says, "No, this is definitely the tent where I used to live before I was captured on that holy night. And this was 6 months before that day. And I think this is the beginning of the time before the subjugation squad started hunting me. And I think all of this is from before the subjugation squad started hunting me." And so, confused, he stands there and says in surprise, "Have I traveled to the past?" After that, accepting the situation, he continues, "If I've truly been given a second chance here, and this place is a remote forest near Waterman Village, but humans rarely pass through here, and it had been surviving here hidden from human eyes, and it was hidden because it was incredibly weak, a pathetic vampire who could barely survive a day holding his breath." And the narrator continues, "He had never naturally drunk human blood. Instead, he had completely suppressed his instincts a long time ago, and it wasn't just one mistake, he ruined everything completely." And the next day, a swarm of mercenaries was roaming around the area. 5 days later, the holy knight started patrolling the village, and it didn't matter how long it took them, but somehow they always managed to find him. And because of fear, he only drank the blood of animals to survive, and that's how he spent 20 years. He stood there wondering how he had ended up in the past, but then he said, "No, it doesn't matter anymore, but I won't repeat the mistake I made before." And thinking this, he ran into the forest. "If I try to hide again, the same thing will happen to me as last time. So now I only have one choice. I have to become incredibly powerful. So powerful that even if they find me, they won't be able to kill me. So let's go down the path of a vampire." And thinking this, he stood before a strange kind of swarm. And he said, "This is my survival strategy, the only way I can survive." And he explained that vampires have the power to absorb power from blood. And the stronger the blood of the owner, the more amazing power he will be able to gather here. And looking ahead, he said, "It's here." The master of this forest, a massive beast with a gaping mouth, stood before him, causing Eugene to flinch slightly. He quickly jumped to avoid it as the creature had already devastated the surrounding area. Looking at it, Eugene thought, "With this weak body of mine I can only avoid its attacks, but if I can inflict even a small wound I can drink its blood." Thinking this, he advanced towards the enormous crocodile-like monster which had 6 eyes. He thought to himself, "Until now the only survival strategy I had in mind was to completely erase my presence. But I know that hiding is completely useless for me now, so there's no reason to hesitate." With that thought, he pulled out a dagger he had with him and tried to stab it while jumping. But as soon as he attacked, the creature's hide was so thick that his dagger shattered. Eugene was shocked to see his sword broken. Then the monster used its tail to flick him away, sending Eugene tumbling a great distance. He was in terrible condition, bleeding profusely. He looked ahead in fear as the massive monster, with its huge mouth open, was advancing towards him. He thought, I underestimated the strength of this creature. Then we are told about the roamers. These aren't the monsters that are found inside a dungeon, but rather wild predators that roam freely. Some roamers even appear in regions where there are no mana crystals. Therefore, they are considered more special than any gemstone, because mana crystals are truly crucial for any roamer. And if I find a mana crystal here, the situation could completely change. But the difference between us is truly too great, and that's why I think I really underestimated it. This is a forest of monster-level roamers, and that huge crocodile-like monster was about to devour Eugene alive. Seeing this, he wonders if the last chance he had will also end this way. In the next scene, there's a huge explosion, and it drags Eugene into the depths of the water. Taking his last breaths, Eugene says, I think my last chance is really going to end this way. But still, he gathers some courage and says, no, I shouldn't underestimate myself either. I've spent my whole life crawling on the ground and holding my breath. I did everything I could to survive here, and now it's time for me to fight so I can stay alive. And we see that Eugene had grabbed onto the monster's tongue and started sucking its blood. And he says that he has to fight here, and therefore he will fight and he will also win. And now strange-looking masks start glowing on his body. And along with this, his hair also started growing very rapidly. And at the same time, his previously thin and frail body now seemed to possess a lot of energy because he had completely transformed. He then thought to himself, if I don't win here, I won't get another chance because there's no next time after losing here. Thinking all this, he slowly approached the mana crystal inside his body. Looking at it, he said, I've arrived and I have to devour this so I can survive. My life has always been built on the blood of others. With these thoughts, Eugene absorbed the mana crystal. Complete silence prevailed. But the next moment a huge explosion occurred and the crocodile-like monster's body was torn to shreds, which were scattered everywhere and became visible on the surface of the water. Eugene slowly emerged from the water and said, I have to promise myself that if I've been given a second chance, I won't run away from this fight. So from today, from this moment, I will secure my victory by drinking blood. And saying this, the Eugene we see now was completely transformed. He looked much more handsome and amazing than before. Strange marks were visible on his body which were glowing. After everything calmed down, Eugene checked himself and thought, I only came here to drink his blood because I knew he was the master of the forest, but perhaps I also absorbed his mana stone. And the magic content inside that mana stone was actually much better than I expected. And this color is also quite different from what I saw before, and its size was also much larger. And the ability I gained from that mana stone allows me to transform my skin into black shell-like armor, and he thinks that because of this, he might be able to block enough sunlight to roam around during the day. He tells us that he learned about the master of the forest when the mercenaries captured him here last time. The last time they came to the wetlands, this place was much smaller. That's why no one knew about the existence of the master of the forest. But suddenly his territory expanded due to the rain and flooding. Because of this, he suddenly appeared and attacked the mercenaries, and amidst that chaos, the master of the forest suffered some wounds from which I drank his blood. That's why I was able to defeat some mercenaries and escape. And that's why I knew about the effects of his blood quite well. So I decided that I would definitely drink his blood here at any cost. But because of this, my strength has only increased a little. But it's not enough for me to defeat the holy knight young D-Heart, so I have to avoid this fight until I win this thing. And thinking about D-Heart, he says that it doesn't matter where I hide, he always finds me. So perhaps he has a pretty amazing ability to detect monsters or undead creatures. That's why there's absolutely no point in hiding my body here. I need to gradually build up my strength here so that I can fight the holy knight who will eventually arrive here. And he says, looking at the sky, that night is falling soon, and it will be too soon for me to test the powers of my mana stone. So I think I should head back before the sun rises. And thinking this, Eugene was about to leave, but then he hears someone's voice and it says, the fallen master who stole my territory and converted a beautiful-looking lake entirely into himself has been killed. Therefore I thank you, who truly did such an amazing job by eliminating my fallen master. So I offer you my gratitude. And besides, you truly have so much courage that you stepped onto this land without fear or hesitation and spilled his blood. But I protect this place, and I am the water spirit named Million. And besides, the anger of the forest and the wrath of the earth, therefore your body will begin to be torn to pieces because of this curse. Saying this, the water spirit looked truly terrifying. But in front of Eugene, its size was very small, and he further says, besides all that, you bald vampire, perhaps you didn't even hear what I said to you. Because only a few special beings exist here who can sense the presence of spirits. But then Eugene asks, exactly are you? After hearing this, Marion was confused. He says, what, surely he's not saying this to me here. Then Eugene tells him, I'm telling you the truth. What exactly are you? Marion says, is it really true that you can see me here? He says, yes, absolutely. He says, that means you must have also heard what I said to you a little while ago. Says, you mean when you called me a bald vampire? After hearing this, there was silence, and the next moment he falls to his knees and joining his hands in front of him says, forgive me, I am the water spirit Marion. Actually, I was the original master of this place. But 15 years ago that crocodile bastard came here and stole my home and made me his slave. Now perhaps not a slave anymore, but can we call it a partnership, because this water has become really dirty. That's why all the blessings stopped. That's why he let the riverside area remain my territory. But now because of you that crocodile bastard has been killed here, so because of this place will be purified again, thank you very much. I clearly saw that a bald old man was eaten by that crocodile here. But a short time later, as soon as he died, a handsome man emerged from inside him, so perhaps it was some kind of disguise to defeat that crocodile. This is really amazing. Eugene was a little confused by this because a tattoo on his shoulder was disappearing. And Miriam also tells him that he should speak to him more politely and that these tattoos are quite impressive. But what do they mean? Are they symbols of a warrior? Or the names of those he killed? Eugene was also confused by this. He says that he doesn't know either, they were just there from the beginning. And he says that he has been a vampire for so long that he himself doesn't remember. But when he was born, and as far back as his memories go, he clearly remembers that these 10 tattoos were on his body. And because he himself for some unknown reason hadn't been able to remember his past memories for a long time, he had only focused on survival here and had never reflected on himself at all. And so he wonders if these tattoos are some kind of imprint or magic, and if one of them disappeared because of what happened here today. So as Eugene leaves, he says, "Okay, now you take care of this forest." But Miriam was confused. He says, "We've met here after such a long time and you're leaving anyway after such a long time. There are only a few people who can see spirits here. I'll be quite bored." But wouldn't it be really nice to have a companion to talk to? Eugene says, "But wasn't your plan to convert this wasteland back into a lake?" He says yes and then asks, "How long will it take for this to be completely purified?" Eugene tells him, "But I think it would be much better to give this handsome man clear water before purifying him in this way. Didn't I say that right? Anyway, I'm a fairy of water, so the water is really quite tasty." Then tells him if you drink this pure water all your complexes will change. The next moment he starts spitting water from his mouth which looked really disgusting. He says, "Here, drink this quickly." Was shocked to see this. He says, "Go to hell, stay away from me." After that Eugene starts to leave but he says, "Sir, wait a minute, I can purify water here too. I can make any water drinkable instantly." Eugene tells him, "I don't need this at all." He further says, "Instead of spitting like this, if you package it you can get a very large amount of money and quite quickly too." Eugene wasn't even listening to him. Then a few days later we are shown a scene near Water Vein Village where a boy comes running to the chief and says, "Sir, can you come here for a minute? That red-eyed monster is here." Hearing this he was confused. He says, "What?" And when the villagers arrive there, they are astonished to see it. They say, "What is this?" Seeing the many animal carcasses there, they say, "That's a lot of meat, really so much, and this time there's even a little more than usual. Can we take all of it with us?" And right there the boy asks the chief, what could Red Eye most be thinking, because usually he only hunted for us here on the night of the full moon. The chief replies, "Yes, you're absolutely right, and that time hasn't even arrived yet." We are told that this mysterious creature who lived in the forest near the village had been living there for 10 years without harming anyone. And every full moon night at this very time he would share his prey with them. So who can understand the mind of such a creature? What could he possibly be thinking? And right there Eugene was standing in the bushes in front of them and he thought, "When I first appeared here 10 years ago, everyone was afraid of me. But after that I started giving them hunted animals as a kind of tax. So they didn't have any problem with it, and this strange relationship has continued like this for 10 years. The police chief says to Eugene, "It's been a long time, is there something you want to tell us?" Eugene steps forward and says, "I've been away from here for a long time because I was suffering from a strange illness. But after a long time, the illness has finally been completely healed. So I thought I'd come and share this amazing news with you all. And besides, I've received a lot of help from the village over the years, so I thought why not offer my assistance? So will someone tell me if something is happening in this village?" Hearing this, they were confused. They look at him and say, "Who exactly are you?" And Eugene, taking off his mask, says that he hopes they can tell him whatever they want to say. After seeing his beautiful face and the radiance emanating from him, the people were quite surprised and shocked. The villagers couldn't even stand in front of his radiant face, and they wondered if this red-eyed creature who had been living in the forest was a half-elf or a noble. They thought that he always wore his mask, but his real face looked like this, which was quite strange. And then we're shown a scene from a little earlier with Miriam, where he asks Eugene why he gave all the prey to those people, the prey he had worked so hard to catch. Don't vampires only mean bloodshed, hunting, and death? Eugene explains that being recognized within human society is very important, so he has to show off. But Miriam was confused. He says, "But you're not going to eat those people. And besides, you'll be leaving here in a few days anyway. So what's the point of getting involved with them? What difference does it make?" Eugene says that at first he also thought it didn't matter at all. But this is actually very important because he can't just stand by and watch what's going to happen here. Because if the mercenaries arrive early this time, all the villagers will be killed. Miriam is confused and asks, "What did you say?" And we are told that some mercenaries are coming to the village to take a boy, and they will take him to Lord Triven's castle, who is the ruler of this local area. But all the witnesses in between will be eliminated, and that's why all the villagers were killed. And if this incident isn't stopped here and now, it will cause even more problems in the future and the Holy Knight will come here and attack. Marion wonders if what Eugene is saying is true. And if it is true, how does Eugene know about this? He says that all the villagers are really going to die, and he also thinks that he has been living with Eugene for a few days now, but he still has no idea about his thoughts. What he's actually thinking. Eugene says that whether this is true or not, we will find out in a few days. But is there any harm in trying to gain the villagers' trust a little before that so they know that I am completely harmless to them? But Marion was confused. He says, but what does this trust have to do with the destruction of the mercenaries? But the next moment he bumps into him. Because of this he screams, it really hurts, it hurts, why did you suddenly stop walking? And then he sees that several mercenaries were walking down the road with their weapons, and they look at Eugene and say, who is this man, and why does he have such strange hair? It looks like he came from that village. And a man with a large axe says, so tell me, what should we do? I was thinking that we should sneak into the village. And their leader says that he looks quite handsome, and he continues. It doesn't look like he has any kind of weapon, and he's alone too. Their captain says, brother, there will be trouble if he makes any noise here. So running forward he says, okay, I hope he doesn't make any noise here, and he attacks Eugene directly with his large axe. Seeing this, Marion, frightened, starts shouting, Eugene, Eugene. But Eugene signals him to stay back. And as the man with the large axe swings his axe directly at Eugene, Eugene's eyes turn completely red and black, and in the next moment we see the man's head flying into the air because with a single swift move, he had cut his throat and finished him off. After that, he tells Marion to think a little more carefully, and the fear was clearly visible on their faces now. He then says there's a real advantage in building trust with people here, they won't suspect you at all. And so, after transforming his hands completely into claws and with glowing red eyes, he says, therefore, I will eliminate all the mercenaries here myself. After that, an even more dangerous and terrifying battle begins among them. Eugene was continuously attacking and killing them. They shout, he's a vampire, he's not an ordinary human. A mercenary attacking with his sword says, if he's a vampire, then don't be afraid of him. This is actually quite good. If we hand him over to the church, we'll get a much better reward. But as soon as he said that, Eugene grabbed his sword. But before he could finish speaking, he attacked him in the eyes with his other hand, gouging out his eyes and simultaneously slitting his throat, killing him on the spot. After that, another mercenary attacked him, saying that this is no ordinary vampire, we'll have to take his corpse with us. And then Eugene started attacking him, swinging the sword. He then said that this vampire's head would be his. But in the next moment, Eugene thrust the sword into his ribs, killing him as well. Seeing this, a man with a large weapon approached him and said, you demon. Then his companion said, fool, stop running around like a madman. He with his large weapon said, I will crush you here. Eugene easily stopped him with just one hand. After seeing this, the cowardly man was terrified, his body started trembling. He said, no, this can't be, you stopped him. Eugene said, the sun is slowly setting. As soon as he said that, he killed that man and severely injured him as well. He further explained that the night time is his time, a very good time where he can drink blood. And in this way their fight ended, and Eugene brutally eliminated all of them. After that, we are shown a night scene where all the villagers were standing there with torches and the fear on their faces was clearly visible. He says, my God, how is all this possible? And there were many strange, half-eaten corpses of mercenaries lying around, and he was confused about what had happened there. So he asks, is all this your work, Red Monster? I mean, is it? Eugene, standing to the side, says, absolutely not. Actually, when I came back from hunting, I saw these people lying here like this. I just came to check my traps, but it looks like these are the people who attacked this village from behind. Perhaps these are the culprits. In saying this, he gestures to the side, and they were also a little surprised to see this. They say black wolves, and there were many corpses of black wolves lying there. There were so many of them here, I saw them when they were busy eating the corpses. As you can see, some of their corpses are still lying here, but there were a lot of them here, more than the mercenaries. And those who escaped from here, it's possible that they are still watching us from somewhere. And the chief explains that they were quite notorious for wreaking havoc in this entire area. So how did you kill so many of them alone? And when they check the corpses, they realize that this isn't all Eugene's work, because they check the corpses and find that all of them have wolf claw marks on them, and not just in one place but all over. They also say that black wolves are indeed very hostile. But still, there's no way they could have attacked these mercenaries from behind in this manner. But after all this, they tell Eugene, please forgive us for doubting you. He says, no, it happens. After that, he asks the elder, what are you going to do with these bodies now? I told you about them because I couldn't leave them here like this. The elder says, if that's the case, I'll have to bury them here in the village. And Marion says, Eugene, all your words are lies. The wolves only came here after you had killed Mercedes and left. After that, you killed them too. Then you made teeth and claw marks on all the bodies. Looking at it, this was a really good cover-up for your crime, but still I don't understand why you're so worried about your image, but there's no need to do anything like that here. And even if he leaves, people will definitely suspect him, but still it looks like he has some kind of plan in his mind. So Eugene tells him, yes, you're absolutely right. And he tells the village chief, I checked the bodies to see if there were any items inside that you could give to their families, but I only found a letter inside, can you read it? And when he reads the letter, his eyes widen in disbelief. He says in surprise, is this true? And then he asks about the field. Where is that field? The people were confused. They say, why are you asking about it? The field must be inside the village, but what's the reason? And he explains that the letter says that field is perhaps Sir Truvin's illegitimate child, and that's why the mercenaries were here specifically for field. The others are also shocked to hear this. What does that mean the child is a noble? And then we are shown a scene from a little earlier where the leader of the mercenaries was still alive. But after seeing his comrades die in this way, he was very scared. He says, how can you kill so many people so quickly? And the remaining people also say, but if we leave here empty-handed, we're going to die anyway. Instead, we should fight here. And even though it's a monster, it still only has 2 arms and 2 legs. So stop running away individually and attack him all together. And they all move towards Eugene together, and their leader says, David, I can't even run away from here. Why did he have to appear here at this time? And he sees that Eugene had almost killed all of his comrades. Seeing this, he extends his sword forward and tries to attack him. But Eugene calmly looks at him and delivers a kick to his stomach from behind. He crashes into a tree and is severely injured, falling to the ground. After that, he begs Eugene, please stop, please stop. Were you waiting for us to come here from the beginning? But why are you targeting us? We were just trying to do our job here. So Eugene, with his terrifying appearance, stands before him and says, I want to know about your village because this village is mine. The man, trembling, says, forgive me, I didn't know that this village actually belonged to you, but we didn't come here to harm anyone like you. Actually, there's an unwanted son of the Trevin family who is hiding in this village. People were saying that he had been missing for a long time, but in reality, he's living here hiding his identity. So we just came here to take him. Eugene says, you're a terrible liar, so tell me what was the real reason for your coming here. There's no way that so many people would come here for just a simple mission. You came here to completely wipe out the entire village, right? Didn't I guess correctly? As soon as he hears this, he says, no, you're not entirely wrong. But still, we weren't actually hired by the Trevin Patriarch. Our clients were actually Karmer and Vithal Trevin. I thought we were hired because of the political problems that arise between the nobles. That's why we had to kidnap that boy, and that's why so many of us came. I thought that if there were any problems here, what could we do? So please forgive me. And after hearing this, Eugene became very angry. He thought, I knew he would be involved in this, and he was thinking about Vithal. Actually, he's the commander of the vampire hunting squad and also a knight who, along with Darret, harassed me quite a bit. But even so, I don't think it's likely that Mercedes received an order to destroy the entire village because he's a knight. This must have been this man's decision, and that's why the mercenaries found me here. Many people became active here because the entire village suddenly disappeared. And the man further says that he thought this could be a very good opportunity. That's why he came here, but if he had known that I was here, he would never have even thought about doing something like this. Seeing this, Eugene says as he leaves, okay, just take good care of the wolves here. Hearing this, the man is confused. He asks him, are you really leaving me alive here? Thank you so much for showing such mercy. But the next moment he picks up a weapon and strikes him directly on the neck, easily killing him. Seeing this, Marion says to him, you finished him off instantly. Eugene says, of course he knows I'm a vampire, how could I leave him alive? And besides, he looks to the side and sees many terrifying eyes looking at him. He says that there are many wolves roaming around. After which the scene shifts to the present time, where he says to those people, Chief, this is true. He shouts, absolutely, and the mercenaries who came here actually came to take Field away from here. But the other people were still quite confused. They say, but Field didn't lose his mother last year and he came to our village 8 years ago. After hearing what those people said, the village chief says, yes, but these mercenaries came here to take Field because the Lord has been killed there. So what should we do now? Eugene asks them if this boy Field needs to be taken to the castle. The man says yes, and that the mercenaries might not have survived here either, but he can take him there, protecting him from all the bulls because he's been living here for a long time. He asks, does that mean you'll protect Field? But we can't ask you to do something like that. Eugene tells him that it's no problem because a knight never declines to help someone. Marion also says, Eugene, your skin is really made of steel here. But the next moment he realizes what he said and is shocked, and even the rest of the villagers are very surprised. They say a knight, the man whose face had completely fallen says, shouting, Eugene. And Eugene says, I'm sorry I haven't introduced myself yet, and he says, my name is Jean Eugene and I'm from the Eugene house. Marion shouts, who would believe you here? And they are still surprised that this red monster is actually a noble. And so they quickly come and start bowing to him, saying, this was really quite rude, we should call him Sir Eugene. And Marion says to Eugene, your lie has really gone too far. But he says, did you see their reaction? These people have never even seen a noble. The whole village is stunned and there's a lot of commotion. The surprising thing was that the boy who had been hiding here for so long turned out to be a knight. And if I act like a knight here, there's no question that he can tell the difference. And they say, Sir Eugene, is it true that you are a knight? But if so, why have you been living in the forest like this for more than 10 years? And there were many other things they were constantly trying to ask Eugene. So he explains that certain conditions arose that forced him to break ties with his family and live in this forest, and after hearing all this, everyone is quite shocked. She says that now there's no doubt why you used to give us food from the beginning, and truly because of the abundant resources of a knight you were able to live well in the forest for so long. And the village chief says to him, but our village is quite poor, so we won't be able to give you a proper reward for this. He says, that's not a problem, but can I rest in the village tonight? I hope you won't have any problem with that. So he says, no, we hope you don't have any problems. It's a great honor for our house that a knight will be staying there, so please stay at my house tonight. The next morning, we see Eugene sitting by the window, using his skills to bring his hand into the sunlight, and he thinks, this skill, which I received from the master of the forest, is able to block out some of the sunlight if I cover my skin with it, and that's quite good because it will cause me far fewer problems during this journey. Miriam says, but you're a vampire who only comes out at night. So how can you even think about lying to these people? And besides, you've called yourself a knight. Have you ever even read a book? Eugene says, of course these people will find out about me someday, but anyway I'm about to leave here so it doesn't really matter. He says, so are you going to start talking more smoothly now? What's your goal? You've been living peacefully in this forest for a long time, so why are you suddenly trying to befriend these villagers? And you even accepted their request. And then a man comes up and says, Sir Eugene, we are ready. We can leave whenever you want. And seeing this, he gestures and says, so you see, I've gained a social status here in just one night. Humans sometimes trust a person's authority more than their words, so you can lie as much as you want. But if you put your status right in front of you, you can reduce 100 lies to 10 here. And even though there's a village that easily believed my lies, there are very few nobles who can be trusted in this way. That's why I'm going to turn my lies into truth here, and I'll fill my reputation with so many good deeds that I can become a noble someday. After that, we see the village chief, who tells him that he has written a statement for explanation so no one will misunderstand him here. And Field, I mean this boy, please take good care of him. Then we see the boy. He introduces himself, saying his name is Field, and he thinks that if he wants to turn all the lies into truth, he needs a high status. Eugene also introduces himself to Field, saying that he doesn't need to worry too much. After that, they both start their journey and the villagers send them off with best wishes. Then we see them walking in the mountains, and further ahead they come to a village called Abraham's. Field reads something and tells him, and hearing this, Eugene was a little confused. He asks him, can you read? He says, yes, my late mother taught me how to read. Actually, my mother's status was quite low, so she never received a proper education. But she said that her loved one taught her to read, but I never thought that person could be Trivan. And Miriam, seeing this, smiles and says, it's quite good that you're asking him to teach you how to read here. So Eugene asks Field, can you teach me how to read and write here? After hearing this, he was confused and shocked. He says, me, but aren't you a knight, so how come you don't know how to read and write? Eugene says, I'm just a knight for show, but actually my family has already been destroyed, for which I can't do anything here, and since then there was no word that kept me alive but only my sword. Knowing this, Field feels very bad and says, I didn't know that your family had already been destroyed. And Eugene, knowing that Field was feeling sorry for him, says, first, doubt me completely and then you will believe me, and once I have completely gained your trust it will become so strong that it can cover all my lies. And Miriam, seeing this, bursts into laughter and says, truly your acting is top-notch. You know, but for now everything is perfectly fine, but don't use too many lies, otherwise he will start doubting you. But on the other hand, we see Field, whose eyes were completely filled with emotion. Seeing the look in his eyes, it's clear that he has started to completely trust Eugene. And he says, Sir Eugene, please forgive me. To be honest, I was doubting you at first, because everyone from the beginning called you not a noble but a monster. And because everyone in the village used to call you a monster, that's why I felt the same way too. But now, instead of those rumors, after judging you here with my own eyes, it's clear that if you come from a warrior background, there might be a significant deficiency in your education. And seeing this, the minion was laughing at him, thinking that he would secretly teach him everything he had learned here so that he wouldn't have to feel embarrassed in front of others. But suddenly, Eugene senses someone behind him. And just as an arrow was about to hit Field in the eye, he catches it right near his eyes. After seeing this, he was very frightened, and because of this, he falls down trembling. We then see 4 or 5 people sitting in front of them. A man holding an axe says to him, I told you to use it properly. The other man, who was holding a crossbow, says, I did exactly as you taught me. Field, looking frightened, says, are these bandits? And the man, sensing his fear, says, wait, are these bandits? Looking at their appearance, it's clear that's what they were thinking. So let's finish this quickly. He tells those people to quickly empty all the belongings they have and empty their pockets as well. And if you don't move quickly, you're going to die here. But before he could finish speaking, Eugene comes up to him and cuts his throat with his sword, saying, yes, you know quite well. And his head spins around and falls in front of Eugene, who was standing there. Seeing this, he was very frightened, and his companions also get scared. They shout boss, and Eugene tells him I can move however I want. And seeing this, the man with the axe attacks him, saying, you bastard. But in the next moment, Eugene swings his sword, cutting his throat and finishing him off. He attacks the rest of his companions in the same way, and seeing his comrades dying like this, one man was terrified, so he swings his sword and thrusts it straight into his chest. Only 3 people remained, and he approaches him drawing his sword and says, why do humans always try to steal from or kill only the weak, and just because someone seems weak doesn't mean you can threaten them? So swinging his sword, he says to Field, once I learn to read will I be able to understand this even better. But he was terrified by what he saw, and he covers his mouth with his hand. He then says, you said you wanted to see this with your own eyes, but you're completely free. You can say whatever you want, but I promise that not a single drop of blood will touch your body today. Now they had entered the village, where there were many merchants trying to attract customers. Many were selling herbs and others were selling various things like tools, food, and there were many shops there. And Marion immediately falls in love with these things. He says it's really so much fun, there are so many strange and cool things here. But Eugene warns him, if you're thinking of shopping here, you need to be very careful, because I've been here many times with the village chief, and this merchant market is quite dangerous to explore. That's why most people get robbed here, and the village chief gets very frustrated every time he comes here. And there, we see a man fighting with a merchant demanding a refund for his money. And Eugene says that first of all, he'll need money to buy something here. So he stops at a shop and calls a man over, and he tells the man that he wants to sell this leather, so what would the price be? And the man looking at the black wolf's leather says that he doesn't see him around here often, and this item isn't very common either. After that, he looks at Eugene very carefully, and his face wasn't visible, and he scans him from head to toe, saying that judging by his shabby clothes, he doesn't look like a trader or a wanderer. This means he's an easy target, and that's why a smile appeared on his face. And so without even looking at the leather, he says that this leather is quite bad, so I can't use it much. Therefore I can only give you 18 silver coins for it. But when Eugene starts staring at him, he feels a sense of fear. He wonders who this person is, and why are his eyes so red. He started doubting himself. He was scared. He says, okay, the black wolf leather is of limited quality. And besides, it's quite rare, so I can increase the price a little. But he was still staring. Because of this, he couldn't make eye contact, and he thinks that, if you're even more dissatisfied, I think I should increase it a little more. So he looks at the leather even more closely and says with a smile, it seems like you're here for the first time and you're truly more generous than necessary. So I can only give you 23 coins even after adding a little extra. But Eugene's eyes were fixed on him and he couldn't look away. Seeing this, he says, you're still not satisfied? So he says, okay, let's increase it a little more to 25 coins. After that, he makes it 27 and then 28, but Eugene's eyes were still staring at him and he thinks, how much more will this scoundrel try to extort from me? And nervously he says, okay, 30 coins, I can't do anything more than that. Eugene says, okay, and Field's mouth drops open in shock. After that, we see a fire burning at night. Here, Eugene was looking at some letters on a piece of paper and trying to read them. He says that they look like some kind of insects, but I've started learning the basics from Field here, but I still have a long way to go before I can learn to read properly. And Marin, looking at his new clothes, says that they are really quite decent, but if I think about a vampire, they usually wear silk robes, but considering the circumstances, this is really quite worth it. Jin says that, as Field said, this is quite different. These market people are really quite generous. Even though it was my first time, he gave me so much money. So he says, are you talking about that pushover merchant? And he recalls the scene where he went from 18 to 30 in one go, and he says, that's only because you kept staring at him, and he further adds, and that's how you could push him even more, and one day you'll buy an expensive silk like that. Eugene tells him, I just wanted something to block the sunlight here. Hearing this, he angrily shouts, can't you start enjoying your life a little? You've been inside your house for so long. That's why you don't know anything about the nobility of vampires, that they are the noblest of nobles. They live a luxurious life in their large castles where they wear their silk robes on moonlit nights, command their servants, and drink fresh blood like fine wine. And if you want to get ahead in this world, you have to be completely consumed by ambition, so much so that people tremble at the sight of you. Eugene tells, though you lived in isolation, you know a lot about this area. He says, originally from the spirit realm, you remember, right? Some seniors who used to come to the human world have told me many things about wisdom that are completely etched into my mind. Besides, if you haven't been killed by a silver blade, or someone hasn't tried to stake you, you can live for more than 200 years. In this place you can learn many things. I learned ancient characters and the imperial language here. Hearing this, he asks, does that mean you can read and write? But he says, absolutely not. So Eugene says, is there anything else you can do here besides making drinking water? And then Field comes from behind looking confused. He says, excuse me, but who are you talking to? The poor guy was in a terrible state and he says, I'm talking to myself, but how's your stomach? He says, I'm sorry that you had to see something like this because of me. but when I was preparing the rabbit to eat I remembered that scene from that day which made me feel sick. Marion also says, I think it was more intense than Zero for me too. So he says, there's nothing wrong with that, ordinary people aren't used to seeing such things. After that, Field tells him, you don't need to worry too much because I still have a lot of stamina left, and besides, we still have plenty of paper and pens, so you can learn to read and write as much as you want here. And then when he teaches him to read, Eugen says, reading turned out to be much easier than I thought. Field says, that's probably because you're quite amazing. It was said about me that I was a very fast learner because I learned many things in just 1 month, and normally it takes years to learn these things. Eugene says that this is indeed quite impressive, but will this really be enough, Field? Once you get there, just a little reading and writing won't completely cut it. Anyway. You've become a nobleman's child here in just 1 night, so he says that his mother never told him anything in detail, that's why these things still don't feel real to him at all, and to be honest from the beginning he didn't think that Sir Trevin would welcome him here, and amidst all this some people arrive there. Their boss, waving his hand, says to them, we weren't finding a good place to camp here, so can we stay here if you don't mind? And Eugene notices that they have proper weapons, armor, and their formation is quite disciplined. That means they are real mercenaries, quite different from the people he has met here so far, and that man says, there's a child in your group, but still may I ask where you are going? And Eugene thinks that he's questioning him exactly like a mercenary. If he lies here without thinking, they might become even more suspicious of them, so he tells them that they are going towards Sir Treven's castle. Hearing this, the man says, we are also going towards Lord Treven's castle, so you wouldn't mind if we share this space with you. In return, we can give you some wine, water, and some food. But then a boy with yellow hair comes from behind and says to him, wouldn't that be a bit too much, Captain Pardick? And he also says to Eugene, we are also going to stop here at GK. You don't have any problem with that, do you? But Eugene was just staring at him. Then Partak pushed him back and said, please forgive me. His name is Raven and he hasn't been with our mercenary group for very long. He doesn't have any idea about himself yet, so please, I apologize on his behalf. After that he introduced himself saying his name was Partak, and Eugene introduced himself saying, I am a knight. Hearing this, Raven said, a knight. Then he mocked Eugene saying, Captain, did you hear that? He called himself a knight. Do you even believe that he looks like a knight? You don't even have a horse or any decent armor. So tell me the truth, you're not a real knight, are you? And besides, the Eugene family, what kind of family is that? I've never heard of it. Don't tell me you're a fake. Saying this, he was trying to show his dominance, and Eugene's eyes had turned completely red. He was thinking angrily, I've already told the field commander that I'm a knight, so I can't tell them any more lies here. And besides, these mercenaries who have come to us have a different reason. And even if I'm not a real knight, it's not important to them. But if they keep trying to pressure me like this in this kind of situation, things might change, because after all there aren't so many of them that I can't handle them. And thinking this, he just slightly raised his sword. Then the next moment, Pardick, quite angry, puts his hand on Rebel's shoulder and pulls him towards him. Seeing this, he was a little confused and he delivers a powerful punch straight to his face. Because of this, he flies and crashes into a tree and becomes unconscious. After that, he bows down in front of Eugene and says, please forgive me. Please forgive me because of this rookie's rudeness. Eugene says, your apology is enough. Okay, now choose a good place here where you can settle down properly. So he says, thank you very much for your kindness. And Eugene thinks that the suspicion has already started here, therefore I have to avoid unnecessary suspicion here, so I have to become a knight as soon as possible. Now after some time, when Pardick was sitting here with Robin beside him, suddenly Robin regains consciousness and stands up saying, where am I? And his captain looks at him and says, you are a big fool, how can you rush at a night like this without even sensing any danger? And Robin was quite confused after hearing the captain's words. He says, really, this is quite good. Do you even know that you are still alive? Only because of me. And saying this, he slaps him on the head again and continues, because of you we barely escaped death. So Robin makes a face and says, come on, why is there so much need to be afraid of that worthless looking person? He only has a small sword anyway. The captain says, it seems that you've only judged him by his appearance, but it doesn't look like you've checked properly. Take a closer look at what kind of robe that knight is wearing. How much could it possibly cost? It's a very high-grade robe, and even the cheapest one costs more than 10 silver coins. Robin was shocked. He said, is it really that expensive? And the captain said, "Fool, it would take your entire 3 months' salary to buy it. Do you even realize that? And when we came here, he was reading that letter. That means he's literate." Robin said, "So does that mean he's not an ordinary person?" He continued, "Besides, he was so close to drawing his sword and we all could have been killed because of him. And if we were a little lucky, maybe a few others besides me might have survived." Hearing this, he was shocked. He said, "How do you know all this?" The captain explained, "While you were blabbering without thinking, that knight's right hand went straight to his robe and his left foot was slowly shifting forward. A highly skilled person knows exactly how to shift their center of gravity to match their sword. This means that if I had delayed even a little longer, he would have already cut your throat." So Robin shouted, "If something like that happened, wouldn't you stop him?" But the captain said, "You really have no idea how dangerous and terrifying a knight can be. A knight is one of those people who can disguise themselves within any old family and from birth, keep only a wooden sword with them, and spend their entire lives learning how to kill professionally. They enter unknown dungeons, face and defeat many terrifying monsters, and also acquire military achievements by killing many humans on the battlefield. Above all, their hands are always stained with blood, and only after all this do they officially receive approval for this status. Therefore, becoming a fake knight is a very serious crime. So if this is a true knight, we could be in a lot of trouble. But if he's lying, that's an even bigger problem. Because no one would be so bold as to claim to be a fake knight. This is not normal at all, and this can't happen unless you have extreme confidence in your swordsmanship. Therefore, no one can just walk around saying they are a knight, except for those who have dedicated their entire lives to the sword. Only they can truly become knights. And if someone is around 20 years old and publicly declares that they are a knight, it means their skills are truly exceptionally high." After hearing this, Robin, sweating profusely, says that this person could be so powerful that he could even defeat you. So he says that maybe that's possible, and besides that, he had said that it was heading towards Sir Treven's territory. "I heard that there might be a very large dungeon opening up there that was recently discovered. So maybe it's possible that he's also trying to go there, and we also have to go there. So I think that we will definitely meet each other again." Meanwhile, Eugen, who was constantly listening to their conversation, says that it's quite good that my ears are quite sharp, and is carrying the title of a knight really that heavy, so I think that maybe this method is going to work quite well. But I think I need to be a little more prepared. And besides that boy who was knocked unconscious with a single punch, everyone else here is a pretty good mercenary. So why did the Treven family use such useless trash when they could have hired people like these, or they could have even sent their own soldiers? I don't understand why this seems so strange. So Eugen gets up from his place and starts walking towards Pardik, and seeing this, Robin says fearfully, "He's coming towards us." After that, he removes his mask and says to Pardik, "I heard that you are also going towards Treven's castle, and since both of our destinations are the same, why don't we travel together?" Saying this, he extends his hand, and after seeing his beauty, both of their eyes were dazzled, and Rabin tells him that the truth is even more handsome than anything else. After that, the scene shifts and we are shown a scene with Martella, who is inside Treven's territory, and they had entered that village, and he thinks that it's quite good that they have come to believe in the truth. "I'm a knight, and as long as I'm traveling with these people to my destination, I can gather a lot of useful information. But right now, there's only one problem," and then Miriam arrives and tells him that, as he had asked, he was keeping an eye on the mercenaries and had overheard their conversations. He asks, "So, did you get any information?" He replies, "Yes, absolutely. Lord Treven's health is much worse than it should be, so it wouldn't be surprising if he died tomorrow. And a new dungeon has recently appeared in his territory. But if he somehow manages to clear that dungeon, it could be a huge advantage for him. However, the Treven family is currently lacking both money and troops, therefore they can't open it and explore it at all." Eugene was confused that a new dungeon was about to open. He says, "Yes, listen further. If Lord Treven dies soon, what will happen to that boy? After all this, won't he become an orphan again?" He says, "I have nothing to do with Icky." Seeing this, Miriam was getting angry at him and says, "Sir, look at him. Don't you think he'll be killed like a dog by his brothers?" And looking at the field, he thinks that Lord Treven probably wants to summon him for only one reason. He knows he's going to die soon, so he wants to see his child's face one last time. But besides all this, my fate is truly quite different, and therefore it will definitely change here in some way. Thinking like this, they arrive at the castle, which is Lord Treven's castle. Upon entering, a very large and magnificent castle appeared before their eyes. Seeing this, Marion was quite excited and said that it turned out to be much bigger than he expected. Marion tells him that he should also climb the ranks very quickly so that he too can one day live in a castle like this. So he says, "Stop your nonsense and go inside and sit down." Field was confused, wondering who he was talking to again, and then a man stops them and asks them why they are here. Pardak tells him that he is actually a leader of the Mercedes group, sent here by the Playland Company. He asks him who he is, and the man introduces himself as Treven's heir, and his name is Kamara. He tells Partak that this is the merchandise they brought with them. He says, "As you can see, we have safely brought it here." So he says, "Okay, stop the unnecessary talk and start unloading everything." And when everyone starts working, his attention falls on Eugen. He asks him why he isn't working like everyone else. Yujin steps forward and says that it's nice to meet him and introduces himself as a knight. Hearing this, Kamara was confused. He says that Knight and he were just talking about the field and about this boy when suddenly a man with his guards comes there shouting at him, "Big brother Kamara, what are you doing here?" Eugene immediately recognizes his voice and looks at him fearfully, thinking, that voice. And he says to him, "Kamara, how many times do I have to tell you this? It's my duty to inspect all the outsiders who come from outside and also to guard this castle." Eugene glares at him and says, "Of course, how could I forget his voice? He was the first person who found me when I was hiding, who along with Darrett tormented me so much until I died. And this is Knight Vithel Triven." Vithel comes there and asks his brother, "What are you doing here?" He replies, "Do I have to report everything to you now? Are you acting like you're the superior?" Vithel says, "You know I didn't mean that." But then Eugene interrupts them both and says, "Hey, this letter was sent by the chief of Viven." Hearing this, he extends his hand in confusion, saying, "Viven," but then he pulls his hand back. Seeing this, Vithel was a little confused and he hands the letter to his older brother. Both of them were confused about what all this meant. After reading the letter, Kamara was also shocked. He says, "I can't believe that Wolf attacked all the mercenaries and they were all killed, and actually this boy you've brought with you is actually an unwanted son." And then he continues, "Hello, my name is Field." Kamara also says, "Okay, what does that mean, you're our new brother?" And Vathan was glaring at him, where he further says, "We've been waiting for you for a very long time. Father will be very happy to see you." Vathan, taking a long breath, angrily says, "Someone take him away from here. Wash him properly, dress him, and get him completely ready." Hearing this, a man starts dragging him away. But then Eugene interrupts him and says, "Wait." Seeing this, he looks back angrily, a little confused. Eugene says to him, "I would like to talk about my reward first, so I would like to meet Sir Triven here." He glances at him very angrily. His veins were clearly visible on his face. He says, "I cannot allow this." Says, "Not even for a little while." He explains that father's condition is not good right now and I will give you your reward in gold coins, so for now you can leave from here. But Eugene seriously says to him, "But I put in a lot of effort to bring that boy here." He angrily says, "I don't have the habit of repeating the same thing again." Then Kamara says to him, "Why don't you speak?" Hearing this, he was getting even angrier. He shouts, "Brother," but a different smile was visible on his face. Kamara says to him, "We have to introduce our new brother anyway. So what exactly is the problem with this? What's wrong if he sees our father there for a little while?" But Vithel tells him that he knows very well that their father can't stay awake for more than an hour a day, and how can they let a complete stranger meet him at such a time? Kamara looks at him, smiling, and says, "So now you want to control father's schedule too?" Hearing this, he says, "Stop twisting things." After that, Kamara turns to Eugene and says, "I truly feel very bad about this, but as you can see, you can't meet my father right now. This is all because of my brother, who is playing the role of a gatekeeper here, so for now, consider this your home." After that, he goes to the field and says, "Come on, my new brother, let me show you around." And Eugene thinks that Vithel is not letting him meet his father. And then there is a loud shout from someone calling out to Vithel, and we see a man with bright crimson hair who had a man slung over his shoulder. He tells Vithel that he was looking for him, and he had brought some mercenaries with him, whom he throws down in front of him. Vithel was shocked to see this, and he tells him that these are the mercenaries who were going into the village and stealing from people, and they have been very lazy for the past few days. Instead of training, they just wander around aimlessly. So I thought I should bring them here, and there was a distinct anger in his tone, where he says, "Why don't we as an example eliminate one of them here?" After hearing this, Vithel feels a little confused and senses Eugene behind him, realizing that his gaze is still fixed on him. Then Eugene says to Vithel, "I know we hired them temporarily so we could raid the dungeon." But then he interrupts him, saying, "I'll deal with all the mercenaries later alone. But there are many people here who are listening to us, so why don't we go inside and talk?" Seeing this, he says, "Okay," and then Pardik also arrives there, and looking at the man, he says, "This man is Sir Gilfredic." After hearing this, Eugene asks, "You know about him?" And he explains that he is a knight with a bright future ahead of him. He came in third place in the tournament recently held by the Evergrowth family, and he has strength like a monster, and his skills are truly top-notch. That day, he eliminated more than 1,000 people there. But Eugene asks, "What is someone like him doing here?" To which he replies, "I think he's also here because of the discovery of the new dungeon. Even though the area is quite far from the capital, successfully covering a newly appeared dungeon would be a great achievement for any knight. Such a newly opened dungeon is incredibly difficult, and many people lose their lives there. I think Sir Galfredic is planning to use this dungeon to get hired into a more prominent family." After hearing this, Eugene says, "Okay, I understand." Then he says to Pardik, "It seems your job here is complete." After that, we are shown a scene at the castle in the evening. There, Werther and his knights had forced everyone present to sit on their heads as punishment, and Kamara was watching all of this from above. He thinks to himself, "I have to open this dungeon this time. My younger brother has now openly started fighting for the position of successor, especially since father's illness has worsened. And besides, he has also brought Gilfried here through his connections. I think he will also try to open the dungeon, and if he succeeds, everyone will start supporting him." That's why he was worried about how he could accomplish this. He couldn't just hire any random person. Just then there's a knock, and he wonders who could be here at this time. He tells them to come in, and he's told that Sir Eugene wants to see him. Hearing this, Kamara was a little confused. He says, Eugene, the knight who brought Field here. He tells them to let him in, and when Eugene enters, Kamara smiles and says, you don't need to worry about Field at all. We will make sure that boy is safe, and if father wakes up I will reward you handsomely. With that he tells him to sit down and continues, I'm truly grateful that you brought that leader here to me. Eugene replies, I was happy to do it, I just wanted to speak to the Lord of the State about my work. That's why I saved him from the third-party invasion here. Camarasan was a little confused. He says, so tell me, what do you want here? Do you need some kind of identity certificate that you met the father? Eugene says, yes, that too, but besides that there's something else I want to offer you. Actually, I want you to include me in the danger raid. Camarasan was even more confused. And the next moment he starts laughing loudly. After that he continues, you turned out to be much more interesting than I thought. And then he notices Eugene's clothes, which were quite dirty. So he says, you said you're a knight and I heard that you killed 5 robbers on your way here. So are you trying to improve your image by going into the danger raid? But is there any reason why I should let you in? So he says, absolutely, this is something I would like to offer you which won't cause you any harm. Kamara was confused. He says, what do you mean? Eugene says, from the rewards of the dungeon that will open I will only take 100 silver coins and half of the loot, which will also include mana stones. Kamara says, that's a very good offer. But that's why I'm even more suspicious of you. Do you know that the economic terms you're asking for are far too low? So he says, did it sound good to you or not? And besides, you're the one in a hurry here, not me, and saying this. He was trying to provoke him. And Kama also thinks that a knight always lives only for his owner and dies only for his owner. And judging by his outfit, it seems to me that he is a wandering knight who doesn't have a home. But besides that, it also seems that he is not at all greedy for money. This means that his owner has come all the way here with him, and besides, I've heard a little about him. And then Eugene said to him, you're the one in a hurry here, not me, and saying this, he was provoking him. After hearing this, Kama also gets angry and remembers that his brother is quite eager to sit on his throne here, and he smiles and says that he knows very well how to play tricks. Eugene is quite different from typical knights who don't have brains, only muscles, so he says to Eugene, okay, that's good. It doesn't seem like I have any reason to turn down this kind of opportunity. Therefore, Sir Eugene, I am ready to work with you here. Saying this, he extends his hand. Eugene looks at his hand and thinks about Pardik's words that finding crystals is quite difficult, and purifying them is also difficult, and the commission fee is very high, so to put it simply, the byproduct, if sold at its full value in the market, can generate even more profit than what we can get from here. And I'll introduce you to this trading company that I know quite well, so you can go and tell them that you'll only be buying byproducts here, namely crystals. And if you do that, Sir Kamara will have no other choice but to accept your proposal. On the other hand, we see Werthal and Gilfred, who says to him, what kind of nonsense is this? You want to add new members to your subjugation party at the last minute. Gilfred tells him that this is dangerous, not a playground for children. The moment you fall behind even a little, your death is completely certain. And it's a place where only life and death exist. So if there are people who come here whose skills are not sharp at all, and who just want to take every advantage by staying behind me, then I'm against it. But Werthal says that my brother recruited that knight, so I can't say anything against him. Besides, my brother has never properly connected with any of the neighboring nobility, so his connections aren't very good either. And if things have come to this, I think you should go and tell him all these things yourself. Gilfred makes a face and says, why are you putting everything on me? Just then, there's a knock at the gate, and the two of them look confusedly towards the front. Kamara says to them, please forgive me for calling you here at this time. Let's talk about our new knight. Please. Allow me to bring him here in front of you. This is the knight who will be joining the subjugation party. And this is Knight Eugene along with his mercenary band. Werthan was surprised to see that this wasn't the same man he had seen before, and even more surprising was that he was leading this mercenary band. So Werthan smiled and said, Kamara, with all due respect, I would like to say that we cannot allow anyone here whose origins and skills are unknown to us. Kamara said, you're talking about his origins, I myself vouch for his skills. Hearing this, he was confused. Kamara continued, I've heard a few things about him. That group of bandits in the corner of our territory had been causing us a lot of trouble. You must know about them, they were becoming a real headache. On the way here, Sir Eugene eliminated them all just with his small sword and his skills, so I can say that he will be quite useful, don't you think so? Just then the girlfriend threw a knife at him, at Eugene. But Eugene saw it in time and calmly caught it with his hand, then flicked it back and it hit the wall behind him. After that, a strange, creepy smile appeared on the girlfriend's face. He looked quite dangerous, and standing up he said, wow, please forgive me for our first meeting. I showed you such rudeness. But looking at your body, there isn't a single mark on it, nor any burn marks. Looking at you, it seems like you've grown up in the shade. So will you allow me to check your skills here? Saying this, he stood in front of Eugene with a dominant attitude. After that, girlfriend and Eugene stood inside an arena where many people surrounded them. They said that girlfriend wanted to duel here. As soon as the news spread in the village, everyone started rushing towards the castle like crazy. The entire village crowd was pouring in. Everyone was just talking about this night's tournament, saying that he was very powerful. He had come in third place in that tournament and he could tear any monster to pieces with his bare hands. On one side stood Eugene and on the other side stood Girlfriend. People felt a little sorry for Eugene because they didn't know anything about him. Meanwhile, Girlfriend was smiling at him as if he had already won. Eugene placed his sword on the ground. But on the other hand, Girlfriend held his sword in front of his face. Seeing this, the smile on his face turned into a slightly serious expression, but looking at Eugene, it didn't seem like he knew anything about this. So he was a little confused, and then he also held his sword in front of his face. After seeing this, Girlfriend was even more shocked. After that, the man starts the duel there. Both of them started moving rapidly towards each other, and in the next moment, their swords were clashing against each other. And then with a loud clash, both of them moved away from each other. Guilfred, gesturing with his hand towards Eugene, says, "Come on," and seeing this, he gets quite angry, after which their fight started very quickly. He was continuously attacking him, pushing him backward. Seeing this, Rabin says, "Just as I expected from Sir Eugene. He's pushing Sir Guilfred backward." The reader was confused seeing this. He says, "He's pushing him backward. But doesn't it seem a little strange considering the size of his opponent? Sir Guilfred is deliberately letting himself be pushed back here." There wasn't the slightest wrinkle on Guilfred's face. It was as if he was just playing with him while fighting, and at the same time he was blocking all his attacks, and he thinks, "His swordsmanship is even worse than I thought. There is no particular habit in him that I can observe here, nor any kind of style. This means that his swordsmanship is not very polished either, but he is definitely giving me the vibe of someone who has grown up in the forests." As Eugene swings his sword and launches another attack on him, he says, "Just as I thought." Blocking his attacks, he says, "You are not a knight." "I was right, wasn't I? You lied. You have no proper technique in your swordsmanship, and these pathetic stances you're using show you've never had any proper training. You've just been relying on your physical abilities all this time, and you can't say that Ignite only relies on his swordsmanship. But if anyone here tries to fight you even a little, they can generally tell that you were lying." Seeing this, Eugene tells him that he really talks too much. Guilfriend tells him, "If that's the case, then fine, defeat me, I'll shut up." And saying this, he strikes his sword directly at his clothes, damaging them, and Eugene barely manages to block it. After that, he spins his sword and brings it down near his feet, which shocks Eugene even more. Then he spins his legs and, turning around, delivers a powerful kick to Eugene, but he barely manages to block it. However, due to the pressure, he slides quite a distance and a huge explosion occurs, filling the area with dust. After seeing this, Worthen and everyone else are shocked. He wonders if he's unconscious, but Eugene was now quite angry. With his red glowing eyes, he asks him, "How did this happen?" And saying this, he starts attacking Guilfriend again, and when he attacks him this time, Guilfriend is also shocked. He says that he's learning incredibly fast because he tries to attack him from behind by thrusting his sword into the ground and spinning around. Seeing this, he understood what he was doing, and their swords clashed against each other, shattering into pieces. That is, both their swords had broken after colliding with each other, so they both threw their swords behind them, and in the next moment they started fighting each other with their bare hands, and now this fight was no longer just about sportsmanship. Instead, this fight had now come down to their bare hands to see how they could fight each other without weapons. And the girlfriend was shocked after seeing this because her hands had become weak. Seeing Eugene's strength, she says, "Even though he looks quite small, his strength is quite strange, and okay, I acknowledge him for this. In terms of raw strength, he surpasses me here. But besides that, if we talk about experience, I am still superior to him." And saying this, she pulls her hands back, which completely throws off her balance. She was confused, thinking that her stance had become unstable. And in the next moment, the girlfriend makes a powerful punch and looks at him, and Eugene was also a little shocked because she was about to launch an ambush attack on him. But then Eugene puts his hand on the ground and starts pulling her backward. Because of this, the attack she was planning on him missed. After that, he starts pulling the girlfriend even further back. Seeing this, she says, "There is no single precise movement here. But still, the cow's ability to learn very quickly and its way of responding instantly, these survival instincts are truly insane." And then Eugene brought his fist up to its face, so Guilfriend understood that he had lost here, and as soon as the punch hit his face, he was sent flying and landed far away. He directly hit a wall, which also cracked with a loud bang. And everyone was very shocked to see that Guilfriend had been knocked unconscious by a single punch. Everyone's mouths were wide open, and the man announced that the winner was actually Sir Eugene. At this, everyone started cheering for Eugene. They said that this knight's inner strength was truly awesome. And Sir Eugene, I had never heard this name before today. Everyone started cheering for him. And Raven also said, "Did you guys see that? He's our knight, our knight." And Pardik was confused, wondering why he suddenly started referring to him as ours in his sentences. On the other hand, Guilfriend was lying there unconscious. The next moment he regained consciousness and stood up, starting to walk towards him. It looked like he was coming to fight him again, and seeing this, Eugene was a little scared. But the next moment he said, "Let's give our winner of the night another round of applause," and saying this, he started raising his hand. Seeing this, Eugene was also confused about what was happening, and everyone started cheering for him again. "Sir Eugene, Sir Eugene." But on the other hand, Vathel was getting very angry because of this, his face contorted and he looked quite frightening. After that, we're shown a scene with many royal dishes, and it is further explained that after that day everyone's perspective changed completely by 180 degrees. The room starts talking to him asking, "Is this our capable knight? And did you sleep well last night?" And all the girls there also started looking at him very affectionately. Then he says to him, "You must have rejected all the appreciation you received there." And then Raven also comes to him and says, "Sir, you called me," and he thinks, "I really like this." And the next moment Guilford arrives, pushing the door open and says, "Look, this is my friend and also my comrade." Eugene asks him, "Why are you clinging to me so much?" He says, "Did you sleep well? But my face is all swollen, which is why I could barely sleep properly last night. Look, there's still a bruise on my face." And Eugene, seeing this, says, "Do you want more of this?" But he was now completely focused on Eugene. He says, "Are you free tomorrow? Why don't we have another sparring match here?" And now Guilford didn't care at all whether he was a knight or not, he just wanted to fight him. After that, we are shown many servants, and poor Eugene's face was completely distorted because there was a lot of royal food placed in front of him. A servant explains that Sir Kamara had ordered them to make sure they filled their stomachs with all the good food before the dungeon opened, and that they would personally come and give them all the details of the tasks. They were happily ready to do everything for him. But then we see Minigan, who bursts into laughter and says, "You can't even properly tell them that a vampire doesn't need to eat. But if you really eat all that, your stomach will hurt a lot." Eugene tells him that he will only accept the sentiment, and from now on he will take care of his own food, so please all of you leave. Hearing this, they were confused, and he further tells them to go and tell Sir Kamara that he likes being alone. After this, he tells us that he had lived in the forests for many years, and those who initially doubted him no longer do. That's why he has been living here for so many days. But despite everything, he hasn't got used to the people who keep wandering around him. Then we see a boy coming from behind, and Field arrives, and Sir Eugene and everyone look at him with confusion and shock. He says that it's been a long time since they met, and he was quite surprised to see the poor fellow's condition.